All right, here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Tuesday evening. It is Game 1 Eve, and we got another fire edition of KnicksFanTV's Court Vision. CP the franchise in the building. Our guy, analyst extraordinaire, Bailey Lau, is on the other side. Salute to everybody in the chat, man. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Bailey, how you feeling, man?
Super excited, man. I mean, can't say I expected to be here, but at the end of the day, you got to play the games, right? So
you got to play the games, man. Before we signed on, we were like, yo, this is kind of unbelievable still right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to do this, but I cannot say I was expecting to be doing this.
Yeah, for sure. But since we are here, man, let's talk about how the Knicks can win the East here, man. Let's take a look at some film. They're going up against a tough, scrappy, and impressive Pacer team. What did you see when you broke this thing down, man?
Yeah, so I'm really excited for the series. I think both teams actually face similar challenges with the other team. So let's start with the defensive side of the ball. And the first thing I want to start with is just the matchups. So you're going to have Cat on Turner. You're going to have OG on Pascal. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Bronson on Naismith, Hart on Nembhard, and then Mikal on Haliburton. I think that's how the Knicks start. I also think that's right. I do want to see for a period of time, I want to see Hart on Haliburton, and I'll kind of get into why I think that's the case. But everyone else, I think, has to be that way. And then you don't want Brunson on Nembhard just because Nembhard has a lot of creation ability and just they run him through a lot of pick and rolls.
Yes.
So just don't have Brunson kind of on ball as much, right? So that's how I think the matchups will go. First thing I want to talk about is just the pick and roll coverage. We just came from a really switch heavy scheme. I think we're going to go back to drop to start the game. Mainly because Haliburton's not necessarily the scoring threat that Tatum was. So you're a little bit more worried in drop against Tatum because Tatum's coming off that screen. Celtics also run a lot of actions like the Ram screen to kind of get Cat detached from the screen. Pacers do that less. Pacers do flip the screen as well as the Celtics. So just having Mikal and Cat kind of be locked in is going to be important. But I think the Knicks start out and drop. Another reason I think that is Turner likes to roll a lot. Compared to the Celtics, they kind of like to run that pick and pop a lot more. Not to say Turner's not capable of the pick and pop, right? We know he's a really good shooting threat, and they go to it a good amount, but he has a tendency to roll. So I'm assuming the Knicks start out like this. Obviously, as the series goes on, I'm sure both teams will adjust, but this is just how I expect them to start. The one thing I really want to call out, whether or not we stick to drop, whether we switch to the switching scheme, I think the key in this series defensively is to have everyone else stay home. And it's a little different from what we discussed with the Celtics series, because in the Celtics series, once you live with like Cat on Tatum, everyone else is really concentrated on being in the gap and helping out in the gap because the shots going up with Tatum and Ben. With the Pacers, that's not necessarily the case. So everyone has to stay home by knowing that their assignment is dangerous and can get the ball and can get like an off-ball screen as well. So staying home in this matchup is going to be actually like focusing on your defender, even when there's a mismatch that's happening on the other side of the court, right? So here, obviously, Cat doesn't do a great job. We know that Cat's not a great drop defender, but a lot of this matchup is going to come down to how well they can kind of contain these actions. A lot of it's going to be how much can you make Haliburton a scorer. I think that's the way to actually like win this matchup. If at the end of the series we look up and Haliburton's averaging 30, I don't necessarily think that's like a bad thing. I think that's probably a better sign for the Knicks. So that's kind of the pick and roll coverage on the roll. Again, the pop is very likely as well. In the second game, the Pacers went to it a lot in the clutch. It's actually what ended the game against the Knicks. So Turner hit like two of these back to back. This is the late switch we talked about. So this is not a switching scheme, but Mikal sees that Cat obviously is in drop and then covers Haliburton, and then Mikal is going to veer off back to Turner. This is good defense, honestly. Like if you look at this, like Mikal's there, Mikal's covering it. It's just a difficult play to defend, no matter what, right? It's what we talked about the Celtics. Like there's no like great answers for this. This is why the Knicks decided to switch the action. I'm a little worried about the switching here, because Turner's really good at walking Mikal down or any defender on the switch down into the post.
Yeah.
And the Pacers are good at swinging the ball to get to that matchup. So whereas for the Celtics, right, it's like you know that the matchup is going to be Tatum against Cat. You can force that to happen. Against the Pacers, a lot of times you're getting the Turner on McHale in this case, right? Which they're more than comfortable going to. So that's going to be something to watch out if the Knicks decide to go switch. So I'm just curious where the Knicks are going to take it. Do you have an opinion on what you would like to see? If you want to see them switch or you want to see them drop, what's kind of your take on that?
I think it depends on the personnel that's on the court, right? Like the switching clearly worked against the Celtics, but in certain respects, as you said, like you can live and die with Halliburton, you know, potentially taking some mid-range shots or even taking a three here and there. But, you know, against the Celtics, you haven't had that like luxury. I'm also wondering if like at certain points, does OG get some of that Halliburton assignment, maybe even in crunch time where, you know, if you do get there on a switch, he's a little bit longer, he's bigger to get out there on Miles Turner. You know, if he gets him down there on the block, you can trust OG to kind of hold his own there. I think it's interesting, but for me, I think they got to show them various looks. I don't think you can stick to one scheme or the next. Whereas the Celtics, they had to switch in order to survive and even win that series. Like that was the only way that was going to be possible.
Yeah, I totally agree with switching it up. And I agree with switching it up because the Pacers do different things depending on what your scheme is. So by continuously changing it, you're also confusing them a little bit, right? Like if you're switching, they definitely roll with Turner a lot more. If you're just playing a drop, they'll pop with Turner a lot more. So just throwing that confusion is going to be important. I really like OG on Halliburton. Let me throw one more at you. I like OG on Turner. And they actually went to this in the second game, which is really fascinating because I kind of forgot. But during this game, Tibbs made a ton of adjustments in the last 5 minutes just to see like different looks. And he hasn't really done that throughout the season, just trying different things. But the first thing he tried here was, again, Turner at this point just hit back-to-back threes. Knicks are trying to win this game, trying to stop that action. They put OG on Turner, which puts Cat on Siakam, right? Now, if you're the Pacers, I don't know if you think Turner on OG is a mismatch. Like, I don't think that's a mismatch, and I don't think the Pacers want to go to that. So instead, what they would do, which totally makes sense to me, is bring Cat into the play, right? Siakam's a great player. Let Siakam be in the action. So here, Siakam gets brought in the action. This is the wedge action. So wedge screen is Shepard setting the first screen for Siakam, and Siakam immediately going into the screen on McHale. So as you watch this play develop, now specifically in this game, this is a miscommunication. So this is after a timeout. At this point, Tibbs told them to switch. So every play after this, you see them switch. So I'm assuming that at this point, this is also a switch. So there's just a little miscommunication here between Cat and McHale, which leads to this Halliburton three. But if you think about this conceptually, now with OG on Turner, and if this is switched now, your matchup becomes Cat on Halliburton and then McHale on Siakam. Now, the reason I was worried about switching with Cat on Turner is they're really good at getting Turner onto McHale, right? And that's a mismatch that I think is like, it's a good mismatch.
Right.
Now, Siakam on McHale, I think that's a little bit more comfortable for the Knicks. So, and I think that's something the Pacers are less comfortable with over a Halliburton on Cat ISO. So I think the general name of the game is, can you funnel the Pacers offense to kind of like Halliburton ISO or like Nembhard ISO? It's not just Halliburton that ball handles here, but like, can you funnel the offense through that isolation? I think if you have it be Cat on Siakam, I think you can funnel it a little bit more where they're less comfortable with Siakam on McHale as the best matchup. Instead, in their minds, Halliburton on Cat is the better matchup, and they'll kind of run their offense a little bit more towards that. Again, not like ideal, right? Like Halliburton's a great player, a bit more laterally quick than Tatum or Brown, but for the most part, like I think you live with this offense in the grand scheme of things. But that's just kind of how I see like one way to stop that pick and pop action, and how you can just switch the lineups and then switch. If you switch the lineups and feel a little bit more comfortable with that.
Yeah, I do like that configuration in the event that they are screening there for Halliburton. The only like drawback I have is potentially if you have a Cat on Siakam situation, is Siakam getting aggressive? Is he taking it to the basket instead, calling his own number? And then you're kind of putting Cat in that tricky spot where he kind of found himself in that Celtics series where at times, he got picked on and his fouling tendencies kind of got out of whack there. But again, hey, these are your best players. You have no choice but to try to put them in the best, best places to be successful, and if that's a situation, and then you have OG on Turner, I think the Knicks are pretty set there. And then in that play, you had Hart on Mathurin, but that could be Nebhard, could be a number of guys because the Pacers have so much depth.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's like a concern throughout. I think it's going to be throughout every series is Cat in foul trouble. I just don't think there's any way around that. But yeah, that's definitely a concern, especially with a player like Siakam just attacking Cat. I think is going to be like a real concern. But let's just stay on that switch with Halliburton on a mismatch like Cat. So I'm just pulling this clip up from the Cavs game where Jared Allen gets switched onto Halliburton. Mm-hmm. And I touched on this a little earlier, but one of the ways the Pacers attack is everyone is still dangerous when a mismatch is happening. So as you see Jared Allen here switched onto Halliburton, in the Celtics series, that Tatum's getting the shot up. Mm-hmm. In this series, that's not necessarily true. So they run a lot of off-ball stuff, but they also just like positioning Nembhard high on the weak side. And they also do this with Halliburton too when Nembhard has the ball, right? And what they do here a lot is they'll pass it quickly to Nembhard, who immediately drives the basket. Sometimes they'll get a little interesting with it and like have Turner also set a screen on Mitchell here, and then Nembhard can kind of go with the screen. But it's just fast, right? So like everyone thinks that the mismatch is happening where the ball is, but it's actually happening one pass away, and it's a very quick action. So this is like where I think it's interesting to have Hart on Halliburton and Mikal on Nembhard, because Hart's really focused when he's on ball.
Yeah.
He's sometimes off ball watches and is a little like spacey and like lacks focus. And that's going to be really detrimental during the series. Like the biggest thing in this series is every single off ball player has to be locked in. You don't get time to rest like you do against the Celtics series. Once this mismatch happens, everyone still has to be really attentive. So I'm a little interested in what if you just let Mikal play off ball, and Mikal also has been phenomenal off ball. Not that, like, in the playoffs, he's also been pretty good on ball. Like, he had great stretches against Cade.
Yeah.
But I feel like his natural position defensively is a little bit more off ball. So it's something I'm just interested in. I don't think it'll happen immediately. I think Mikal will get the Halliburton matchup, but just something I'm interested to keep an eye out on if they do actually decide to try that out.
Yeah.
Here, Halliburton gets a shot off, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that's part of what makes these guys so dangerous is like, you have five guys who can, maybe outside of Turner where, he can put the ball on the floor when he catches on the roll and take it to the rack. But you have so many hybrid guard forwards with so much speed and athleticism. That's what has hurt the Knicks throughout the regular season. And you're right. Like your three spaciest defenders at times is Hart, it's Brunson, and it's Towns. But like you said, I do like Hart more on ball, where he plays more intense. He'll be physical, he'll be a bit more gritty. But off ball, especially if you blink twice against this Pacer team, then they're cutting right behind you. And as you said, they could be to the basket or another pass away once the next guy has to rotate. So they're going to put a lot of pressure on this Knicks defense for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a game of everyone just being really focused, just all across the board. And I think like that's what makes a series interesting to me is I almost like think about it like, do you think the Knicks team that we're going to see is more representative of the regular season and like the first round Knicks, or kind of like the Knicks that you saw in the past 6 games? And I think like depending on where you lie on that question, like you'll see the series different. Because the defense that the Knicks played during the Celtics series is like they were really locked in.
Yeah.
They all were really connected outside of like game 5, but like very connected. That's like the level of defense that you have to see in this series, and I think they'll have a good shot.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the benefit of playing in a series, right? Is because if you have down games, a la game 5, you correct. And that's what the Knicks have been doing a good job of. They haven't lost 2 games in a row in the playoffs for the most part because, especially on the defensive end, they make their proper corrections. like game 2 against the Pistons. You have Brunson and Hart, miscommunicating. You have Schroeder stepping into a 3 that won the game. Game 3, they were a lot better. So I think that's the benefit of playing in a series, and that's why I think you're going to see more of the latter, like that team that came out in games 4, game 6 of the Celtics series. They know what's at stake here, and they know where their weaknesses lie, which is in the communication, in their rotations, which a lot of times is caused by the communication breakdowns. So I think you're going to see the latter with this team.
Yeah. And I definitely can talk myself into game 5 being a weird game, like post-Tatum injury, away on the road. There's a lot of energy from the Celtics side. I can kind of like get myself to like, they've been putting up really, really good defensive performances outside of that one game. But I do agree. I think like, to me, this team currently feels very different. And they feel way better on the defensive side of the ball. They look better on the defensive side of the ball, and they look way more connected. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So one more thing I want to talk about, or last 2 things defensively. First is just, I'm interested to see on these guard actions, how much they're willing to switch. They wanted to hide Brunson a lot more in the Celtics series. You don't really want Brunson on Tatum or Brown. I think in this series, they're more comfortable with Brunson on Halliburton. Again, not ideal, but if you can funnel offense through Halliburton, I think the Knicks prefer that. So I'm curious if they just kind of live with this switch, or if they still do the, or if they still hedge and recover. And then, is the screen frozen for you?
Your screen isn't, but the jumbo, the video is frozen.
Huh. What the hell? Should I just reconnect?
Yeah, let me hit the reset on my side. No worries about that. Hang on. Let me I'll tell you when to do it. Okay. All right, so to everybody in the chat once again, just reconfiguring here. So to everybody in the chat once again, man, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. CP and Bailey on the 1s and 2s, man. Get your watch party tickets. Baron Davis coming through to the Game 1 watch party here in New York City for a pregame show with me, and then a meet and greet with the VIP attendees, man. This is pregame. So for those of you that are coming to the watch party, make sure you get there for like 6:15 sharp. We're going to start around like 6:30. And then again, if you want to meet Baron, take a picture with him, you can get your VIP tickets, man. But all tickets you can get at KFTVWatch.com or KnicksFanTV.com. Okay, I think we're back up to speed. We're back up and running here. All right, let's get back to the program. Here we go.
Awesome. So last thing about the Knicks defensively is transition.
Yes.
Again, it's kind of the same question. Like, what team do you expect to see? They've, at times during the season, even in the playoffs, have been a little like lackadaisical on defense. Yes. So here you see 5 Knicks back, 4 Pacers, OG and Hart both go to Pascal. There's a wide open 3 for Halliburton, which shouldn't happen when you have the numbers advantage, right? So we saw this a lot in Game 5 against the Celtics, right? So just something to be on the lookout for. Like, those plays specifically in transition just match up well, communicate well. Again, it's something that the Knicks talked about, right? And they know it's a focus for them. So it's just one of those things, like, do believe that they'll execute properly. And it's something that I do think they'll execute properly.
Yeah, well, listen, man, this is the best team in transition in the playoffs right now. And between the ball handling, the guard play, hey, they did it last year against the Knicks with OB and those guys. Now they got Mathurin coming off the bench, McConnell. So you got to be on the string, and they have to identify their guy. They have to match up in transition, or it's going to be tough nights for them if they don't do it consistently.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one of the strong points of this Pacers offense. So just trying to limit that as much as possible. And also by not turning it over, Knicks are good at that, but another thing to keep an eye out on.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No. Well, I don't know if you had anything here because, Mitch didn't play in this series. So
yeah, last year.
Yeah, well, like I'm curious to see how he factors into this thing in terms of trying to slow down these Pacers. I mean, obviously we know on the boards where they're not strong, I think he could have a major impact, but also in his coverages, in those pick and roll, pick and pop coverages with Turner. I'm going to be interested to see how Mitch factors in, and is there room for a Twin Towers deployment here Does Tibbs say, hey, you got to play our style? Or is it kind of, Mitch kind of subbing in for Towns and vice versa?
I would love more Mitch. I would love the Twin Towers as well. I think I also want the Knicks to keep on crashing the offensive boards. I don't want them to kind of like try not to do that to prevent transition. But I think play to your strengths, right?
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with Mitch defensively, and I think he'll give the Pacers some trouble just in like drop guarding the pick and pop, guarding the pick and roll. You can just read and react a lot more with Mitch. You don't have to have all these set rules. So yeah, I obviously think he'll be a problem. Less schematically, just like the defender he is just such a good defender.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Good points.
Okay, so I just want to show two plays from the Pacers offense. Nothing really to do with the Knicks, but like I think just wanted to give examples of why this offense is so good. Like past just like they move the ball a lot. Because I don't actually think it's the ball movement that makes them dangerous. I think it's actually just a really quick decision making that they all know what to do once actions get stopped. So here in this play, you see this pick and roll Turner. They're playing this loose drop, but then they can also switch depending on if this is a good screen and Mitchell can't get over. You're going to see the Cavs do a really good job. So Mitchell beats Nembhard to the spot. This action is completely negated, right? So like typically teams will reset. They'll like bring the ball out and reset their offense and then like take some time before calling another pick. So watch Mitchell here. Once this ball is passed, you actually see Mitchell like kind of relax because that's what everyone in the NBA does, right? You won this matchup. This goes so fast for the Pacers between Turner and Nembhard, right back into the pick and roll, right? So you can see Mitchell's detached because he relaxed after the pass went. He's like, "Oh, I did my job," and now because it goes right into another action, he's so far off this ball screen that this has to be a switch. Now look at Haliburton too. This is brilliant, right? Haliburton goes to the logo, Strus follows him to the logo. Now you just have more spacing. Immediately into this pick and roll. You get the switch now. Turner's great at walking this defender into the post, right? So it's like, it's just a decision. The quick decision to go into that second action is so fast for this team. Like everyone just knows like, oh, if this is stopped, cool, we're going to run a second action. If that's stopped, cool, we're going to run a third action. And it's like, it's nothing like really crazy, but when you run like 5 actions in the course of one possession, you're just hoping the Knicks make a mistake at one of those 5. So the key, like what I think is the real key for the Knicks here is you have to play great individual defense. Like we saw it with that Nembhard clip where Nembhard, in that Haliburton isolation clip, like that play gets stopped if you guard Nembhard on that pass. Like if someone passes it and Nembhard tries to drive and you stop that drive, that play's stopped. A lot of like these things are just how good are you in your individual defensive assignments? How focused are you off ball that you're ready for these assignments? And if you can stop them like 2 times, 3 times in a possession, then you stop the possession. It's super difficult, right? But that's like, you just have to stop them individually over and over again, which it's easy when I say it, but like obviously so much harder to do in practice. But that's like kind of the cool stuff that the Pacers run. There's another really cool play that they have, or it's not really a play, but it's just like how they read some stuff. Same thing, high pick and roll. The Cavs are going to switch this, right? So here you have Allen on Nembhard, and then you have Merrill on Turner. If there's a Celtics, Tatum's pulling this out, readying for ISO. Here, you're going to see Turner set a Gortat screen. What that means is typically when a big sets a screen and the center's in drop, Turner will just go and run into the center and kind of like box the center out so that your guard has a layup. Turner does that here on the switch, which is just so easy because Merrill does not have position and Merrill can't get position because you already have the switch against a smaller player. All you have to do is turn around. Because Nembhard didn't pull it out and because Nembhard's attacking here, that's your Gortat screen right there, but it's a Gortat screen against like a small defender. And then there's just a wide open layup.
Straight to the basket.
Yeah, it's just awesome basketball, like really smart basketball, but you just have to stop these individually. Like you have to have great ball pressure, great individual defense, great point of attack defense, and then just try to string together these stops and also try to force Pacers to do what they don't want and have like Haliburton just be as much of a scorer as you can.
Yeah. Well, in those two clips, you kind of showed, number one, how the Pacers run multiple actions in one damn possession. And so, as you said, individual defense and effort by the Knicks is going to have to be key. Their team communication in terms of what they want to do and how they handle those screen and roll situations or screen and pop situations is going to have to be key. And then their endurance. Is Tibbs going to go deeper into the bench? Right? You got to play on both sides of the ball. So that is going to be a very, very interesting test here by this Pacers offense with the Knicks defense. And then on top of that, the Pacers are sporting 3 of the top 5 3-point shooters by percentage in these playoffs. Nebhard, as you mentioned, with 50%, shooting 50% from 3.
Crazy.
Neesmith, 48% from 3. And Miles Turner, 45% from 3. And so in those two actions that's involving Nebhard and Turner, you don't even see Halliburton. That's the luxury of having Nebhard, who continues to improve and get better, man. He's a beast. He killed us last year in the playoffs, even better now. And this was a stat from Caitlin Cooper, who said that out of the 23 pick and roll duos that played out of at least 50 ball screens in the playoffs, most efficient in terms of points per chance, Nebhard and Turner. Nebhard and Turner, man. So,
yeah, that's a dangerous duo. Yeah. Actually, any of their duos is a dangerous offensive combination.
Yeah,
I think Siakam's also shooting like 44% in the playoffs, which is absurd.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is gonna be every round the Knicks defense has been tested in a different way, and this is gonna be one of their biggest challenges for sure.
Yeah, you're gonna need a lot. But I will say the Pacers haven't faced wing defenders like the Knicks have.
True.
Who are good stopping actions themselves. True. So I think that's why, like, to me, the individual defense is going to be a big part of the series.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Cool. You want to move on to the offensive side?
Yep.
Okay, so offensively, I want to, again, start matchups. Actually, I'm just curious what your take is. Do you think that they'll come out with the center on Hart, or do you think, like, Turner will guard Cat? I'm not really sure. I kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, so if they went Turner on Hart, then you're going Neesmith on Cat.
Neesmith on Cat or Pascal on Cat. Then you would have to shift Nembhard onto Brunson. Yeah. Halliburton on McHale. And then between Pascal and Neesmith, you guard Cat and OG. One of those switch.
Yeah. I think they'll probably start Turner on Cat.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think that's where I got to. I'm sure we'll see both throughout the course of the series.
Yeah.
Let's start with if they put Turner on Hart. What that would mean is they have Halliburton on McHale. Now, I think this is a similar question: is do you trust the offense from the regular season and the first playoff series, or do you trust the last 6 games? Because if you trust the regular season, then you feel a lot more comfortable putting Halliburton on McHale. Because Knicks have shown a tendency not to go mismatch hunt with someone other than Brunson.
Yeah.
I feel a lot more comfortable that they'll go to that after the Celtics series. Like, after Campaign got phased out as initiator when McHale was on the court, that never really made sense to me. Knicks were way more comfortable just saying, hey, McHale, like, you just take on ball handling responsibility. And I think that gives me confidence that if Halliburton starts on McHale, the Knicks will go to that a lot more just right off the bat. So if that happens, I would put McHale through a bunch of pick and roll opportunities. This is a fun clip just because you don't see OG and McHale a lot together in this duo. But if there's like Cat or whoever is setting the screen, I think McHale just gets a lot of ball screens in the situation. You put Halliburton through the ringer and make him work on defense. And then same thing if you just have Brunson ISO, and then you bring Halliburton to action as a screener. McHale is so good as a screener. He's so good as a screener. He's so good in the short roll. And then not only that, Nembhard has made leaps and bounds as defender, but I don't think he's like the best type of defender for Brunson in terms of just like size. And also, like, I don't think he's on the level of like an Asar that gives Brunson a lot of troubles kind of on these screens. I personally think like this, if Halliburton's on McHale, this McHale Brunson against Halliburton Nembhard is going to be really, really difficult for the Pacers to stop. If that's how they decide to start their matchups, That's also why I don't think they'll necessarily do that. Also, just to save Halliburton some energy.
Yeah.
But if they do, I think this is going to be really difficult for them to stop.
Look, I think for the Knicks, look, there's multiple ways for them to score on the offensive side, but I'm doubling down on McCall as another shot creator / playmaker, and as you said, to make the defense work. When the Knicks get in trouble, every time they get into trouble is when they get into their 2-minute offense in the first 3 quarters with watching Brunson go. And again, when he's on, hey, fantastic. But to me, you're doing yourself a disservice by not establishing Mikal Bridges early, allowing him to get into his offense. Look, he hasn't been shooting the ball all that well in the first 3 quarters in a lot of these games. Fourth quarter, he's been there for them. But I still feel like they need to go to that because, look, OG, yes, he can get into his 3-point efficiency. When he puts the ball on the floor, it can get dicey. Does he lose it? Is he going to be efficient at the rim? You don't know what you're going to get from Cat on a night in, night out basis. Yes, you'd like to see them establish him early, but with Mikal, his confidence is through the roof right now. He can bring that requisite energy, and hey, maybe you find some areas where you can take advantage, whether it's Halliburton on him, if it's Nepo on him, you never know. But we got to go to Mikal as well, man, and run some plays through him.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I feel more comfortable after that Celtics series that the Knicks are comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Which I didn't before the Celtics series. So, that's what we were asking for when Tim Hardaway Jr. was on Mikal.
Right.
And, we saw that way less, right? But then now after the Celtics series, I just feel a lot more comfortable that they feel comfortable going to Mikal.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's your center on Hart. Let's go to if the center's on Cat, if Miles Turner starts on Cat, because this is what I do expect them to start out like. You're just going to get these flat ball screens right here from Cat, and then you just have to relentlessly attack your pick and pop. It's the most difficult play to guard. If you have a shooting 5, you have to go to it, right? And in the regular season series, they did go to it a lot. That's why Cat did well. See, here Cat stays high. Every center will sink. It's not Turner. It's any center that's guarding and drop. This is why it's difficult to defend this play for the Knicks, right? This will happen every time. So you have to punish it. Cat did punish it during the regular season. I also would have felt more uncomfortable saying that he's going to punish it before the Celtics series, because there were times during the Pistons series, again, that Durant was on Cat.
Yeah,
and the Knicks didn't actually go to that enough, in my opinion, when Durant was on Cat. Just one more play in this regular season series. If Cat stays high, this is why it's difficult to guard, right? You can send help from Halliburton. You can send help off Hart. But if you send help off Hart, you have a good decision maker in Brunson. You have a good cutter in Hart. And you just have to stay high and not sink so that you can create space for Hart to cut here. So here you see the cut, good pass by Brunson, and a good finish by Hart. Right? This should be open every single time. Now, this is what's giving me confidence. In Game 6, the Celtics had Horford on Cat a good amount. It wasn't their original scheme. So they had Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown, I think. Or no, Drew Holiday guarding Cat originally. But throughout parts of the game, you would see Horford on Cat. During those parts, you saw the Knicks go to the Brunson Cat pick and roll. And that sounds so simple, but it's not really things that we have necessarily seen throughout the course of the regular season.
Not at all.
And in the playoff series against the Pistons. So I felt a lot better watching this game, watching them go to this pick and roll, because this is the right decision to go to this pick and roll, and then watching Cat stay high. It's almost like we haven't seen this in so long.
Yeah,
where Cat's not sinking on this pick, right? So this is what you have to get to if Turner is guarding. And I think if you're the Pacers, you're trying to see if that's going to happen. You're trying to see, hey, if we put Turner on Cat, is he going to sink? Is he going to stay high? Is he even going to punish us from the pick and pop? And they just have to. They have to go to this. They have to shoot the Pacers out of that alignment. If they're deciding to do it, you just have to punish them for making these kind of choices defensively, right?
Yeah, 1,000%. In terms of, number one, utilizing Cat as a 3-point shooter, especially when he has a 5 out there on him. If Turner is going to be in the drops, Cat staying high, you utilize him as a 3, you open up the cutting lanes. And in that last play there, Brunson was able to find Mikal Bridges for the 3. And hey, then you force the Pacers to adjust, because at some point, as you said, they will likely put Neesmith on him. They'll put Siakam on him. And I still think he should be able to punish those matchups if they establish him in the low block and let him go to work. But if he's just going to be standing out there still hovering around the three-point line, then he kind of takes himself out of the game.
Here's the thing, too. If you put Naismith on Cat, right, and you have Halliburton on McHale, that pick and roll is really hard to defend. Like, they're not comfortable switching that. That's not like I'm going to switch Halliburton onto Cat and just let that rock. Like, go to that action more. You're going to cause a lot of confusion over, like, what are my defensive principles if I'm the Pacers? Even if it's Pascal, like, you're not going to switch Halliburton onto Cat. And if you do, then the Knicks have to aggressively punish that. But it's a little different than when you have, like, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, that all can switch on the Cat. And, like, for the most part, you're a little bit comfortable with that. I think, like, here, you still go to Cat a lot, even if there are smaller defenders on them.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Cool. So let's go to Hart just very quickly. I want to see Hart ball handle against Halliburton. I think he's comfortable there. If a center's on Cat, it's also really dangerous just to have Cat on the court as an offensive weapon. So I feel really comfortable with this two-man alignment as well. Just go to that a lot more. It should be open. And then also the ball pressure is going to be a big thing. One more clip before the ball pressure. We actually talked about this in the Celtics preview. It's how can you stop the pick and pop? And we talked about how technically you can send help from the gap, but I didn't think the Knicks were going to do it because they've never done it. Pacers actually do it a lot. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see this. And what that basically means is on this pick and roll or on this pick and pop, Turner's going to just stay on Cat. The help's going to come from Halliburton. So you see Halliburton going kind of into the paint to stop Brunson's drive. And then Turner, you're not going to see him go to Brunson. You're going to see him stay on Cat, right? If they do this, Hart has to punish Halliburton. Like, Halliburton has been better as an off-ball defender, but now you're going to put him on ball. You also have incredible amount of space, right? You have Cat spacing, McHale spacing, OG spacing. And then we know Hart's a great finisher. We know he's a great finisher amongst centers. But now you have Halliburton guarding you. You should be able to finish whenever you want, right? And then last Hart piece is just they're going to ball pressure. This is going to be really annoying all series. I think Hart, McHale, whoever Halliburton's guarding too, should bring it up a little bit more, get him tired a little bit more, but also just like relieve some pressure from Brunson. There's just a good play from Strus. And then easy lay, right? Strus got a lot of action during the series, just off pick and rolls and off just having the ball, which makes sense, right? You want to attack Halliburton a little bit more. And I think Knicks have better players than Strus to do that.
Yeah, and I think look, anytime you're pulling Turner away from the basket, you should be able to capitalize, especially the Knicks. You know, they have guys that can attack the rim from Hart to OG. And so, as you said, this is not the series where, again, if the sender's not on Hart, then if it's like a Halliburton or somebody, he's got to be able to dominate those matchups. Like they're going to need him to do that to be effective, especially if the Knicks are in any type of half-court situations. And then the second play that you ran there, I lost my train of thought. Oh, taking Brunson off the ball. I think that's going to be key too as well, man, just to conserve his energy because they're going to be throwing, Halliburton, Nembhard, Neesmith, I'm sure Ben Shepherd, McConnell. Like, all these guys are just going to be wasting fouls on Brunson, being very physical, 94 feet. So as we've seen at certain points in the Pistons and Celtics series, letting Josh bring the ball up and run some offense, I think that will do Brunson well. If there's opportunities, if he's out there with McBride, McBride's ball handling isn't as strong, so you got to be a little bit careful there. But, if you get an opportunity where they're not necessarily picking McBride up 94 feet, let him do it and run Brunson off some off-ball actions, get his hot three-point shooting going, and, vary up the offense like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important, just as you said, just to convert just to save Brunson's energy. It's going to be a grueling series. So I think the more you can get him off ball, the better.
Yeah, there you go, man.
And then last two plays, just independent plays that I want the Knicks to run more. First is a double drag, which is just this double screen. You saw the Celtics run it a lot to the difficulty of the Knicks. I think same concepts here. It's just difficult to know what the principles are with Halliburton. If you're going to hedge, if you're going to switch through, if you're going to have Nembhard try to fight through, whatever it is, you're just introducing a good amount of chaos. This should be open a good amount. So want to just go to that a little bit more. And that's something that the Knicks have done a lot of early in the season, less so recently. You're going to get this cross match sometimes.
Yeah.
Just go to it fast. If OG in transition has Halliburton, just throw it into him. This should be pretty easy every time as well. So just being aware that could happen, being on the lookout for it, and kind of just throwing it. I just want to see that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a good counter, whether off of rebounds or makes. They used to go to OG a lot. Finding him on those cross matches is him getting that seal and getting some easy buckets. So just another way to kind of counter this pacer offense. Knicks can get the job done, man. They can definitely do it. I got Knicks in 6, and I think they're a team of destiny, man.
I totally agree. I think Knicks in 6. I think honestly a lot of this is in the Knicks' control. It's just a matter of, are they executing correctly, which they have been recently. And if I believe that's a team that's going to be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, then I think they have a really good shot.
Yeah. I'm definitely with you there, man. Those were the clips?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, man, another outstanding job by you. Just looking at the schedule, I think we're going every other day straight through, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's every other day.
Do they get 2 days between 3 and 4? Let me take a look. Knicks did drop the schedule. They dropped a lot of stuff today. So the schedule is, it is, except for if necessary, 5 and 6. Then that's Thursday, Saturday. So, all right. So let's see. Maybe Saturday, Monday. Maybe. Yeah. Let me know. Let me know what you think, and we'll reconvene for the midway point, man.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, man. Great job once again, Bailey Lau. Everybody follow him on Twitter at BaileyLau1. Great job, my guy. We'll catch up, man. All right. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. That was another fire edition of Knicks Fan TV's Court Vision, man. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, make sure you guys are following Bailey at Twitter at BaileyLau1. Salute to all of our franchise channel members in the chat. Throw your predictions in the chat, man. Let us know what you think. I'm sticking with Knicks in 6. Rare edition. I see Russell Whiskey always in here. Talento, salute. Who else? Lawrence Smith. Salute to you, Lawrence. How you doing? Lawrence says on the cross matches, he says, OG saw baked chicken down there. Yeah. Well, look, that's what he's got to do, man. You got to capitalize on that. KG never misses a show. We did 3 shows today. You're always in here. Shout out to Coach Rubens. He's a big fan of KFTV's Court Vision as well. Margaret Edwards, she's a day one. She's always in here, so salute to Margaret. Zach out in L.A. holding it down for the Left Coast Knicks fan. We got Stephen Gomez holding it down for the 305 for the South Florida Knicks family. Stephen, where are you guys watching the game, man? We should have set something up at Black Market Bayside. We ran out of time. Maybe we'll do something on Friday. Set something up for the South Florida Knicks faithful to get together and tap in with the squad, man. So stay tuned for that. Steven, if you have any ideas, send me an email. Shout out to J. Cole. Shout out to William Burton. And that is the story, man. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Play-by-play live, post-game live. You know where to keep it locked to, man. Number 1 show for the fans by the fans. Salute to the replay gang, and we are out of here. See ya.